Happy Veterans Day, everybody. It's 7:50 here in St. Louis. Let's go to New York. He is the coach of the Syracuse basketball program for 39 years. Next week, he's going to turn 70 years old, so why not write a book and tell it all? The book is called Bleeding Orange, 50 Years of Blind Referees, Screaming Fans, Beasts of the East, and Syracuse Basketball. Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Boeheim, welcome to KTRS here in St. Louis.
Hey, nice to be with you guys.
All right, Jim Boeheim, why put up with this? You're in an NCAA investigation. You're 70 years old. You've done all this. Why do you keep putting up with all this stuff?
You know, that's just a number. Isn't that what they say, that 70 thing? I don't know. I have three teenagers, 14, and 16. So, when you're home every day, you realize that, it's better to be out of the house and working. So, that's one of the reasons I'm still working. And the other reason is it's still fun. It's fun to get a team together and try to get them to play at a high level. The one thing about coaching, you start over every year. It's all new, and you feel like it's the same as you did when you first started. And it's even more important because definitely there's not that many years left.
Sure. I want to ask this question the most respectful way possible. I grew up in New York, and I've watched you and been a fan of Syracuse for years. But I don't understand, Jim Boeheim, and please take this with all due respect. You wore those big, round, goofy glasses in the 80s, kind of a balding, kind of a slower white guy. How can you relate to the Pearl Washingtons of the world and the Derek Colemans and the Carmelo Anthonys? How do you get these guys, these inner city kids, to relate to you and bring them up to Syracuse?
When I went to college, the first guy that I roomed with his second year for 2 years was a guy from the inner city by the name of Dave Bing, who was a pretty darn good player. But he, I didn't know what Motown was when I was a freshman and sophomore in college, and I had a stereo. Dave Bing had all the records, so I learned over a couple of years what it was all about, and he was probably the greatest guy in terms of relating to people that I've ever known. He went on to be one of the top 50 players and be a very successful businessman, and ran and was elected mayor of Detroit. I learned a lot from Dave on how to deal with people, work with people, and in recruiting, the most important thing in recruiting is to be able to talk to people, and particularly the mothers of recruits. The key to all recruiting is the mother all the time. Even if it looks like it's the father, it's always the mother. I learned that early, and it's helped me become a pretty good recruiter.
So you've eaten a lot of peach cobbler over the years.
Yeah, you have some of those dinners, take homes. Yeah, you come in the house, and it used to be dinners and everything. It's not that much anymore. There's too many people involved in recruiting, but it used to be that way. You go in and have a meal and sit down and talk for a couple hours. It's a little bit more fast food type thing today. Yeah. It's not the way it used to be recruiting.
The book is called Bleeding Orange. Jim Boeheim, coach of the Syracuse Orange. More minutes. Revelations in the book. Did you really hang up on Bill Clinton?
I did. I've met him a couple times since then, but the first time I talked to him was after we lost in the tournament. I had to go do some media things and get back to the locker room. I couldn't. He knew more about the game than I did, and I was coaching it. He's probably the best I've ever seen in terms of understanding who he's talking to and what they want to hear and how to do all that. Unbelievable. I'm sure if he could run again, we'd vote for him again.
All right. Also in the book, you said that if you were younger, you would play more man-to-man defense. Explain that.
Well, I like our zone. Our zone is great. It's so much easier to stick with it and perfect it. I mean, I think maybe, and it was kind of a little tongue-in-cheek, I think we would maybe experiment a little bit more man-to-man, but our zone has been so good and difficult to play against that it's really hard to go away from it right now. It's been a good defense for us.
How come so many other coaches haven't caught on to that? I mean, are you some guru with that 2-3 zone?
Everybody does what they did as a player and as an assistant coach and a coach, and everybody's brought up man-to-man. That's what they learned. That's what they played. That's what they know how to coach. And it's difficult to go away from that. You only get maybe one chance to be a head coach in college, and you do what you do. You do what you know best, and that's coaching man to man, and that's what's worked. And it's a great defense. I mean, the one thing about the zone, you have to stick with it. You have to work on it. And most man to man coaches don't spend enough time on their zone to make it a good zone. So when they do play it, it's not very good, and they kind of run away from it pretty quickly.
Jim Boeheim, our guest coach of the Syracuse basketball team, his new book is called Bleeding Orange. Coach, you're in the midst of quite a number of controversies over these last couple of years, including an NCAA investigation in which you have said that you wish the investigation was over with before the book came out so you could talk about the investigation.
Well, there's no question. It's been a difficult time.
The NCAA investigation. You also had the Bernie Fine scandal right on top of the Penn State scandal, in which many people don't realize this. Whatever the issues were with your assistant coach, he was exonerated of all of those child allegations. That was a story in which the allegation was out there, but the innocence afterwards, that story was never really reported.
No, it hasn't been. I obviously, when I heard, I'd known Coach Fine for 46 years as a friend, and he was our manager when I played, and assistant coach for 34 years. So, it was an instant reaction that this just isn't right. But when you speak out like that, obviously it's not always the best policy. Everybody says don't say anything, but I'm loyal to Syracuse, loyal to the people that have worked for me, and it's just one of those things that you go through. And it was on the heels of Penn State, and that was a horrific thing, as we all know. What happened here has never been proved, and we probably never really know the answers. But I have my opinions, and I state them, and when you do, you get in trouble.
Yeah,
you can't state your opinions anymore.
You're a cancer survivor. You've been with Syracuse for nearly 40 years, which is extraordinary. When do you think you'll coach your last game?
Well, I love coaching. I really do. I love getting the team together. I knew I had to write the book. A good friend of mine, Emily Giffen, who's a best-selling author, told me I should write one after she wrote a coaching book about football coaches. I told her she knows more about basketball, but she wrote about football coaches. But she told me it was time to write a book and get everything down. My wife's been telling me that for a few years, and I had a chance to write it with Jack McCallum, who's a great writer, and I was happy to do it. I wanted to tell the story of the Big East and the formation and the ending and moving into the ACC, and we got all that done. And I'm proud of the book. It's been pretty well received so far.
Very well received, very open, very, very candid. The book is called Bleeding Orange. If Emily tells you to play more man-to-man defense, are you going to play more man-to-man defense?
Well, no, she went to Wake Forest, so we can't go by what her opinions are too much.
There you go.
Jim, we got to stick with what we know, and as you do, you got to do what you do and do it the way you know how to do it.
The book is called Bleeding Orange. One of the greats, won an NCAA championship in the Final Four a number of times. Jim Boeheim, the book Bleeding Orange. Jim, thanks for checking in. Good luck down the road.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
You got it.